Welcome to Gray Overload. And Intel has the B570 out, their Arc GPU, and it's been out here, and we're finally getting some reviews to go over and kind of see what this graphics card can do. It looks like, it's a little bit weaker than the B580. It's on the same battle mage. I think it's like the same configuration here, but it's a little bit cheaper at $219 compared to the $250. You get 10 gigs of RAM on it. And so where you're competing against Nvidia and AMD, you get a little bit more VRAM in that same price range. Well, actually, it's cheaper than the price range of the competing products right now. I think that I like to see this card more around 199. I think that would make it a really intriguing card. But where if you can get it for 219, you might want to just jump up if you can get the B580 for 250. I think that's going to be a better performance. You're getting about 18% performance jump, give or take, put it in 18, 20, 17 and 20%, someplace in there, bump over the B570 to the B580. So, 18% less. So take that into consideration as you're going through and being like, oh, I'm looking to upgrade the GPU, I'm looking to build a computer. Here's my budget. This GPU fits in my budget. Can I fit another $40 to upgrade to a little bit faster, a little bit more performance? Take that when you're going about and looking at this. Now, we all know you can't find these B580 GPUs anywhere for the $250 price. And if that's the case, and you're looking at where they are, some of them are over in the $300 range. At that point, I'm looking at an Nvidia, even the AMD GPUs. At that point, you get more stability throughout the drivers, longer driver life. But that has been around, right? The AMD and Nvidia have been at this for much longer. So as Intel gets there, I think Intel's got another year or so of just commitment to this, and they should have quite a few things ironed out here. But that's just something to keep in mind if you're going to basically overspend for where these GPUs were announced at. I wouldn't do that. I would jump over to the Nvidia AMD GPUs, just because you get you're going to get the performance there a little bit more, hopefully, if they're priced right, than just buying into something that looks good and going out of the price range of where it should be. So just keep keep tabs on how much they're actually charging for the GPUs. Don't just go, oh yeah, I see the Arc one, let's get it, because you may be paying like $100 more than what you should. So performance-wise on the B570, it's impressive. Overall, I'm really impressed where Intel came with these GPUs. Maybe my expectations were just so low, and it was just like, hey, this performance is just so astounding. This is just a great idea from Intel, right? And yes, I like them a lot because of that. Maybe it's that aspect of it, and it's not just all, where they slot in and where they should have been and everything else. But I'm okay to have another competitor in here, and I'm willing to be surprised when Intel surprises me, because my expectations were too low, right? With every product, I think, we'll see what AMD's coming out with, but my expectations are pretty low with AMD too, just being the hype machine, and I'm just like, we'll see what it actually comes out with. And we'll see exactly what happens as AMD actually gets out these GPUs and Nvidia gets out their new generation GPUs, of where these performance will sit. Because let's say AMD comes without like a 9600, that is, a significant step up in performance, that is right there at the $300 mark. That could put a little bit of pressure on these cars to actually stay in the MSRP a little bit better, making it an easy choice to, am I going to go spend the extra $50 to get that 9600 or not? We'll see where that performance is. But that's something to keep in mind here, as AMD has new cards out and Nvidia has new cards coming out. Nvidia announced, the 5070 on up. We'll know the 5060 is going to be coming out at some point in time, probably as the 4060 sells a little bit more through. But it comes down to some of those features that you want. DLSS, if you're buying in some of these cheaper GPUs, I think that technology is a lot more beneficial, especially on these lower end GPUs. And so if that's something you want, if XeSS isn't in all the games you play, that can be a determining factor too as you're looking at these. Now, We seen some Hardware Unboxed and Hardware Canucks. They did some great reporting there with low-end CPUs and seeing a performance bottleneck there on the GPUs. Intel, has put out some statements saying, yeah, they're looking at it and seeing what they can do about it. We'll see if they can get it fixed. One thing I did notice is it seems to be, a lot of higher, and I think I was listening to Gamers Nexus and he saw this too, and he beat me to it, but is higher frame rates. It seems to have a bigger effect than games that are, the lower side frame rates. So some of your more esports titles and stuff like this. And that could be, okay, right? If you're taking a hit of your performance, like you say 10% or so of your frames, and it's just still in that playable range that you don't care about, and you don't have to upgrade your CPU and everything, that could be a logical choice in here. This is one of those cards where I think we're finally to a point, Intel is, where I'm willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to buy this card. I would have bought it last generation, but I think me buying it last generation was me for the technical side of it, of being able to help like test it, see where the flaws are, and see to work through it. Whereas now I'd be buying it and saying, if I threw it into somebody's system, or probably more my kid's system, if they ran across something I could work through it, but I don't feel like I'd have to be sitting there babysitting it and running into issues. It would be more of hands-off rather than being hands-on. And hopefully the next generation or a few more driver updates, that kind of gets completely hands-off. And you're kind of with, the AMD, Nvidia side of drivers where, yeah, you run into issues every now and again, but it's still, you don't have to tinker and kind of do configs and everything else just to try to get it to work or hope that it works. So while they still have some issues with games, it seems like they're finally working through and getting a good footing to make it just work across the board. So that B750, right, if that's something that it's in your price range, you're stuck there at the $220 range, it's kind of what you're open to, what you have access to, right? Everything else is a little bit higher. The 7600, I think, that was a little bit less performance than that 750, if I recall. And so I know the 6600 is lower. That 7600, I think, is, just maybe it's a little bit faster in some games, but it depends, what games you're playing. That's $264, $250 in some places, 8 gigs of RAM. You get the extra 10 gigs of RAM or extra 2 gigs of RAM. You get 10 gigs of RAM on it for the 570 over the 5600. So you got to take that into consideration, that you're saving or you're not spending an extra, up to $50 in some scenarios there. And then you have the 4060, right? And that can be, I believe that's even right around $300 for 8 gigs. So you take a look and you're down at a little bit lower. Now, if I recall, the 4060 on there it's about 11% faster, according to Tech Power Up. So you get that, right? You get something a little bit faster than the B570. Well, you just jumped into that B580, which is about, I'd say, a little bit faster than the 4060. You get to determine where you're kind of slotting in. Now, that 4060 is also $300 over 220. So you have to kind of balance this price. Overall, the price, like I said, I'd really like to have a $199 GPU. I think this would fit perfectly with there. Then you jump up with that Arc B580 for $250. I think Intel would have a really good lineup there. And if they come out with some of their 700 series, that would be kind of a nice lineup then to really take on maybe a 4070 or something in there, that range. But we'll see how it all goes. That's kind of all I have on this. If this is something you're looking at, put it in the comments below. I'm really interested. I'd actually like to have one of each of these, kind of like that, well, 9600, 5060, and then the Arc B580, just to be able to test them and see how they perform in a lot of different games, because I think that'd be kind of cool to see in processors that I can test. But we'll see how it all goes with that. I want to thank you so much for watching. Leave it in comments below what you think about these B570 cards as well. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I got some affiliate links in the description as well if you're going to go and buy one of these cards. I get a little kickback, which is helpful to the channel, helping support the channel. I do appreciate it. And let me know in the comments for anything else, any other questions you have or something else you want me to look at. But I do appreciate it, and don't forget to watch another one of my videos. That really does help on the channel. Until next time, God bless.